like beer? Do you love sports and beer? Then you're exactly where you need to be. This is the Huebs, Views, and Brews show on 1252 Sports Chicago. Cheers.
Cheers is correct. How you doing, everyone? Fred Huebner with you on another Monday night, Huebs, Views, and Brews from my basement. And can't you tell I'm a happy guy? I got my White Sox shirt on, Sox signs behind me, my World Series championship chair right here. The White Sox on a roll, a 10.5 game lead in the American League Central Division after a sweep of the Cubs at Wrigley, or at least guys wearing Cub uniforms. I'm not 100% sure if people will remember some of these names as years go by, but that's what happens when you trade a bunch of people at the trade deadline. Welcome in. It's ladies' night. It's ladies' night on Huebs, Views, and Brews. We have Dionne Miller from ABC7 is going to join us in a little bit. Also, two ladies from Skeleton Key Brewing. Vikki Reid, who is the general manager over there, and she's got a lot of experience in beer in the Chicago area. She went over and joined the crew over at Skeleton Key. And also Emily Slayton, her and her husband, Paul, along with her brother, run Skeleton Key. And we've all been talking about the story of Skeleton Key over the last several weeks, ever since the Father's Day tornado. And how weird is it that today, right before I came downstairs to do the show, tornado warnings and the sirens going on upstairs. I go, come on, it's not 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. What's going on? But, yeah, I know there's a tornado up a little bit north in the Bartlett area, so hopefully everybody is careful. Get in your basement. I'm in my basement here. I got my TV set up. Sox and Cubs both scheduled to get underway shortly, and we'll talk a lot of sports. And that's what we do here on Huebs, Views, and Brews. Talk a lot of sports, and we talk a lot of beer. And I always start the show by opening a beer, except today I'm drinking some Pineapple Crush mix. And the reason is, if you listened to the show last week, 2 weeks ago, might have been 3 weeks ago now at this time, my heart went into AFib, atrial fibrillation. It means you have an irregular heartbeat. The Apple Watch told me, and I had an EKG and saw the doctor and did everything else. So tomorrow I'm going in for what they call a cardioversion. And it sounds a little bit more daunting, I guess, than it really is. I've had two before, and what they do is they bring you in, they sedate you, and as soon as you go down, as soon as you're out, let's say, not go down, as soon as you're out, they shock you back into rhythm. Now, the first time I did it, they have a pad. They put a pad on your chest and a pad on your side, and they give a little jolt, and you come right to. Last time, this guy liked using the paddles, so he used the paddles and did it. So we'll see what happens tomorrow when I get it done. They called me. Well, actually, they didn't call me. I called them to find out exactly what time the appointment was. They said it's early in the morning on a Tuesday. I said, okay, well, I guess probably alcohol would not be a good thing tonight. And they kind of laughed. So I guess that meant, yes, alcohol would not be a good thing this evening. So I will make up for it. Excuse me. It sounds like I've been drinking already. I will make up for it afterwards. And it's funny because a lot of people say, man, you're always talking about beer. How many beers do you drink? And when I went to the doctor, they said, how many beers? I said, I don't know. A couple times a week, I'll have one or two, but you drink craft brews. You're not sitting around drinking 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, that was before I went to watch the Sox game with my buddies, Larry and Bob, the other day. I went and watched the White Sox game with Larry and Bob, and it was a long White Sox game, and let's just say we enjoyed ourselves, okay? Everybody's home safely. Everybody was fine. It was a long day, and you have a couple beers over 5 hours or 6 hours, and that's about how long the game went, 4.5 hours, I think it was. So, doing okay for now. The White Sox, as I mentioned, 10.5 game lead in the American League Central Division. They've been playing pretty well right now. And I know you're playing the Cubs. And I say they're playing pretty well. But before they played the Kansas City Royals and did not play very well, right? They dropped 2 out of 3 and dropped 3 out of 4 in Kansas City. So the Cubs came at a good time. And I guess Eloy Jimenez came back at a good time also, as Eloy on Sunday night had a homer, a double, another homer, drove in 5 runs. And now today, as the White Sox take on the Twins, opening up a 3-game series, Luis Robert is back. So you got Luis Robert back in the lineup. You have Eloy Jimenez back in the lineup. And everyone's saying, why is Leury Garcia in left field? Andrew Vaughn played good in right field. He made 2 nice catches. He hit a home run against the Cubs. Tony La Russa and everybody that has been a manager for the Chicago White Sox over the last several years likes Leury Garcia. And I do too. I think he's a very good utility man. But I would love to see Andrew Vaughn get as many at-bats as he can. I know he's a rookie. Gavin Sheets was sent down so that Luis Robert can come back up, and that's fine. Gavin Sheets will be back up, I would think, when September rolls around. The baseball finally, in its ultimate wisdom, finally cut it down so you don't open your roster to 40 players in September. You open it only to 28. So a couple more players will come up. I would think that Gavin Sheets would probably come up and maybe another pitcher, a Jimmy Lambert or somebody like that. And how about the way that Ronaldo Lopez is pitching? He's come up to be a guy out of the bullpen. 2 nice innings yesterday. I know it was against the Cubs, against a bunch of minor leaguers, but you can only pitch and play against who's on the schedule. I've been saying that for decades, okay? It's the only way you can do that, and that's what happens. So the Cubs keep plugging away, and I know Cub fans are disgusted. Cub fans are aggravated, and I understand that, but this had to happen, in my opinion, okay? You weren't going to re-sign these guys. You might have had a chance to re-sign Rizzo, but he's going off to the New York Yankees, and after playing very, very well, he's sitting out for 10 days because he tested positive for COVID. He also let everybody know that he was not vaccinated. He did that on the Cap and Jay Hood show back in June on ESPN 1000. So he's sitting out for 10 games. He'll miss the Field of Dreams game on Thursday. He will also miss the White Sox games with the Yankees on Saturday and Sunday at Guaranteed Rate Field. Also missing a couple games because testing positive for COVID is Jason Benetti. Jason Benetti did the Olympic game broadcast for baseball along with Eduardo Perez, but I think they were in Stamford, Connecticut, and he has tested positive. They call it a breakthrough case. Now, what that means, I didn't know what it meant, so I had to look it up. They said it's because he's been vaccinated, but he's still tested positive. So he's missing at least a couple White Sox games. We'll see when Jason Benetti comes back to the broadcast booth. But as I've said many times, you can always turn the TV sound down and listen to the game on ESPN 1000. Len Casper and Darren Jackson with Connor McKnight filling in. He did a lot of filling in work when Benetti was out with the Olympics a couple weeks ago. So, and did very, very well. So a lot to talk about with baseball, a lot to talk about with Bears. We'll get into some Bears stuff because the Bears with injuries, training camp's going slowly. But you know what's not going slowly? Preseason starts already. Preseason games start this Saturday at Soldier Field, the noon kickoff. Bears take on the Miami Dolphins. The two teams are actually going to have some shared scrimmages on Wednesday this week. So looking forward to that. I know it's preseason football. I don't watch much preseason football the same way I don't watch much NBA. But no, the same way I don't watch a lot of other things. But I will watch some preseason football because I want to see how much they're going to have Justin Fields play. And also, after the last couple of years, I want to see what Matt Nagy does with his starters. It's going to be difficult because their offensive line has been struggling, trying to stay healthy. That's been very, very difficult. So we'll see. That is this Saturday against Miami, next Saturday against Buffalo, and then they go on the road for their third and final preseason game before they start the season on that Sunday night, the first week of the season against the Rams. Two other things I wanted to get to. I mentioned the Field of Dreams game. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. I think it's very cool. I cannot wait. My brothers and sisters are going to come over. We're going to watch the game. I've obviously been a huge fan of the movie. If you are a fan of the movie and you've never been to downtown Galena, you have to go. Watch the movie again. Go to Galena, and you'll see that downtown Galena is the space they used for a lot of these street scenes. When Moonlight Graham, Burt Lancaster, walking down the streets, It's very interesting. It's very cool to be there and to see it and relate it to the movie and all that stuff. And if you had a chance to ever to go on out to Field of Dreams, make sure you're going out there. Make sure you're going out there with someone that can actually catch and throw. It's a lot more fun. I've told this story in the past. Several years ago, my wife and I went out there. Heck, it's got to be at least 10 or 12 years ago now. And we were throwing the ball back and forth. Let's say I was flipping the ball to her and she was throwing the ball past me, and I had to keep running back over it. So she passed away a couple years ago. We've talked about that a long time, several times. And one of the memories that keeps bringing a smile to my face is going to Field of Dreams and saying, "Could you please just throw the ball in my glove?" I guess it's not so easy for a young lady that never played baseball. That and another thing, I hate doing this because it seems like I'm always doing shout outs and get wells to people. But we found out earlier today that Troy Murray has cancer, the former Blackhawk player, also Blackhawks announcer, color commentator. He made the announcement with the Blackhawks today that he has cancer. Obviously, our prayers for him. As most people know, I'm a cancer survivor. Sylvie's a cancer survivor. Eddie Olczyk. So we will all be there for Troy, and hopefully everything works out well as he goes forward. And as we go forward, I want to bring in my first guest on Ladies Night. And we had this young lady on our show on ESPN 1000. I could not wait to get her on the podcast. Dionne Miller from ABC7, nice enough to join us here. Dionne, how are you tonight?
I am great, Fred. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
All right, awesome,
hear you fine.
Awesome.
It's funny because I would say I don't recognize the background, but I think it's similar to the background you used for months and months doing the shows from your home, isn't it?
It's very similar. Yes, I'm actually in the ABC7 sports office, but I tried very hard to replicate that in my own home. But if you could have known, Fred, it was literally just a corner of my home that I put all our sports stuff there and would broadcast from that same location every time. But what an interesting time to be in the business and to push through. But I'm thrilled to be seeing my coworkers in person, being in the studio again. There's really nothing like it.
I know. I was coming out of the studio yesterday, and I think it was Kara Jordan. I didn't realize how tall she is.
She's so tall. I know.
Oh, my God. I came off the elevator, and I looked. She came around the corner, and she said hi to me, and she had her mask on. I had my mask on because the ABC building where you have masks in the elevators and in the foyers and lobbies. And I looked and I go, my God. And I watched the sports and the news at night. Yeah. Very tall lady. I didn't realize that.
She's a tall lady, and I'm 5'2.5" on a good day. So it's a good thing we sit on the set and don't stand next to each other because it was ridiculous.
It is crazy. Before I want to get into sports, I want to ask you a lot of things about sports in Chicago. But you've been around Chicago for a while. But I was looking at your history. Boy, you must have had bags packed because I see Billings, Montana, Burlington, Vermont, Sarasota, Florida, San Diego, the New England area. Then you're from Ohio, but you hit Columbus, and you had to take a deep breath, I guess, once you got back. But you were all over the place to start your career, weren't you?
All over the place. And I knew that would kind of have to happen. When I interned, that's what they told me, like you just got to get a ticket on, and then you can, change horses as much as you want. And my first job was in Billings. Oh, Fred, I couldn't have picked it out on a map, but it was such a cool location, and it was so beautiful, and I met lifelong friends there, and I just related so much, you understand this, to the minor leagues of baseball, right? Like you get drafted and you think, oh, I'm going to immediately go to the bigs. Well, it doesn't work that way. So, just kind of working your way up and covering, and because I'm a baseball junkie, like being able to cover like the single A affiliate in Billings. And then when I went to Burlington, Vermont, we had a double A affiliate in the Vermont Lake Monsters, was for the Expos at the time. And then I got to go to San Diego, where I got to cover the Padres, and I covered the playoffs for the first time. And so that's kind of how my career went. But I was all over the country. You notice nothing in the middle, right? It was like Montana, Vermont, San Diego, Florida, Ohio, and then here. So, but I've been really blessed by it. I feel so, I just love where I work. I love where I work. I love what I get to do. It's just not lost on me. And even though days are long, and you get that, I mean, but there I was at Wrigley last night before the game, or on Friday night when I'm thinking the Cubs are going to get blown out, and here's, this Andrew Romine 3-run homer, and you're like, oh my, I mean, it totally wiped out what I was supposed to do, but it was such an electric atmosphere, and I still sometimes wonder how I got here. Like, it just is such a gift. I really do enjoy it, and I hope that shows with what I'm doing.
No, I think it does, and I think that's what everybody that loves the business, like you said, we all get into it because we love sports, but we always love the moments and the moments that make it so exciting. And like you said, that game the other day was all of a sudden it was over with,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, they're in extra innings. I talked about it a couple times over the weekend, but there were two things that happened in that game in the 10th inning that 5 or 6 years from now people are going to say, "What are you talking about?" But there were two-run leadoff homers. It's
Yes.
like, okay, well, that won't happen once they get rid of the man on second base to start the 10th. But it happened with Goodwin, and it also happened with Schwindel, I think it was. So it's like, it's bizarre, and you never know what's going to happen in baseball, especially at Wrigley Field. I mean, it's seen its time of weird games, and that was just one of them.
That was one of them, but I have to admit, it's still weird for me because I remember when Goodwin hit his homer, I'm like, how did Abreu get on? What did I
Yeah,
miss? It's like,
exactly.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
It's so
Oh my
crazy, and I
gosh.
can't figure out. I looked and I saw. I thought they didn't that the pitcher didn't get charged with an earned run because he shouldn't. He didn't put the guy on base.
Right,
He was just
right.
there.
I
Yeah.
forgot to
So
check
you
that
look
too.
at it and you get confused. You start going to go, okay, where'd all the runs come from? You can't figure it out anymore
I
with the
know, it's
box
so
scores.
weird.
It's crazy. What you mentioned a baseball junkie? Is that your favorite sport? Is that what
It
you grew
it
up with?
really is. It really is. Well, I grew up, so I was born in Ohio, and we grew up watching the Indians. Like we're talking mid late 80s, and we would play outside all day during the summer, and then we'd come in and we'd watch the Indians. Like that's what we did. We only got like whatever the antenna got, and so we would watch
Sure.
them on channel 43 in Cleveland. And so I kind of that I loved baseball for that reason. My dad would take us to games in Cleveland all the time. It was just something we did as a family. But it wasn't until I was a little bit older that I kind of understood the relationship between baseball and day-to-day life, and kind of understanding that sometimes we have these great days and sometimes we strike out 6 times and we still get up tomorrow and we try again.
Sure.
And it relates so much to life. And that's what I love about the game. I love that any pitch can change anything. And I come from such a place of optimism that I feel like any moment can open a different door to something else. And that's one of the reasons that I love the game so much. And something can change so fast, just like you said. And that's, I've always loved baseball. And you were talking about playing catch. I'm so excited to go to Iowa this week. Like I've never been. I've loved the movie forever. I'm disappointed that my husband can't come with me because that's what we did during when
Sure.
we were dating. We would go out and play catch all the time. And he's also a baseball purist. And we've gone. I mean, we love minor league baseball. We love the Chicago Dogs. Like we just like to be around the game and keeping score. And that's just kind of how I've always been. It's just something very magical about baseball to me.
Yeah, it's always funny when I'm sitting around and I'll hear one of the announcers, and I do it quite often here at the house. They'll say, if you're keeping score at home, and I sent Len Casper a copy of my score sheet one time when he said it this year, and I said, I am keeping score at home. And he
That's
got back to me,
awesome.
he said, nice going, that away. And I do it quite often. It just keeps you into the game more often.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
tough because
yes.
I got like 3 TVs down here. I get the extra innings package on one, and the Cubs are in a rain delay, and the Sox are underway already. And so sometimes you just kind of too many things going on at once. But if you're keeping score, you always know what's happening. And
Totally.
thank goodness for DVRs too, right?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Thank goodness for that. And honestly, we've been trying to teach my son how to keep score, like correctly keep score, because
Sure.
I think that does help you be differently invested in the game differently, right? Like it keeps your attention, and then you kind of see how it all unfolded. It tells the story of the game. Like I just love that.
Yeah, it does. It's so much fun, and for in our business, it's great because you can always go back and say, okay, that's this. And I want to hit this, and
Hmm.
make sure I get to that. It's a nice, wonderful thing. When we look at it now, it appears the White Sox, with a 10.5 game lead, are going to go to the
Yeah.
playoffs, and this is only the second time, or no, the first time I think in
First
their
time.
history that they're going to go back to back playoffs. That's sad. It
It,
really is.
it no,
It
it's
really is
it
sad.
is. It's hard to believe that it's the first time that has ever happened, and yet for the way they've gotten into first place with as shorthanded as they've been, and how many
Yes.
injuries they went through, and these guys. I mean, you mentioned Gavin Sheets will probably get recalled in September. I would hope so because, gosh, he's such a big part of why they're in this position right
Sure.
now. And man, Andrew Vaughn, like I just every time he comes to the plate, I feel like I have to be there. And the way he plays in the outfield, and I feel like he's contributed so much. And guys we didn't expect to be talking about. Tonight is a big night, though. I mean, like Eloy and Luis in the same lineup, in the same outfit, like in the same place at the same time. This is what we've been waiting for, right? So I
Yeah.
feel like they are destined to they're going to run away with this division. I feel like burying Minnesota always feels good to White Sox fans, but like I feel like they're going to start really running away with it. And then they can kind of set themselves up for how that staff which is ridiculous, but how their pitching
Yes.
staff can really carry them into October and the World Series.
Well, see, and I'm old, so I was around in '05. I was down in Houston for the World Series and things like that.
Oh,
I didn't get a chance to go to California, but anytime you get pitchers like that when they won the World Series, these pitchers now are better than those pitchers are.
yeah.
You look at it and you have what Lance Lynn's doing and what Carlos Rodon's doing. Yeah, you had good pitchers then, and it's never going to happen again in a series where you get 4 complete games like they did against the Angels,
Right.
because that's not the way baseball's played anymore. But these are kind of guys that we've always been looking for a pitching staff like this. The Cubs had a really good pitching staff when they went to the World Series, when you have Lester and Arrieta and Hendricks and things like that. And that's what you need. The thing that I enjoy is that forever Chicago was looking for the guys that come in. The Cubs had it in the World Series with Chapman, a guy that's going to blow 100 miles past people. Now the White Sox have Kimbrel and Hendricks and Crochet and Kopech. They have so many guys that can come in from the bullpen. And Rick Hahn's done such a great job of putting the team together that it's almost like, okay, we have too many guys. How are we going to figure all this out? And that's a good problem to have. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. And even with Rodon, I mean, when he started at Wrigley on Saturday, he's so fun to watch right now. And talk about a kid who just last year around this time was like, I don't know where I'm going to be. They didn't want to give me a contract. And now look at him. Now he could be the key piece. Even, I mean, reading articles about the Cubs could be interested in getting him at the end of the season, and how valuable he would be at that point. So it's been really cool to see that. And then you mentioned their bullpen. I mean, there is none better in baseball right now. I mean, with Kimbrel and Hendricks, when they are firing on all cylinders, and to know that if one of them hiccups, the other one is there, right? So if they would bring in Hendricks and he wasn't finishing, Kimbrel could come in and do. It's just there isn't any bullpen stacked like that in the game right now. So it is going to be fun to see how that continues to solidify as they get closer to the playoffs.
The other nice thing about the White Sox is you look at it, and we were just talking about Sheets going down.
Yeah.
I kept thinking that Brian Goodwin would go down, and every time I thought that, he'd hit another homer. He hit the walk-off about a week or so ago, then he hits the home run the other day against the Cubs. It's like he's saying, no, I don't want to go down. I'm going to come up with a big hit in a big situation. So it's all worked out well for them. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention about Rodon. The nice part about Rodon is we get to follow his wife on Twitter also.
Yeah.
Because Ashley's a hoot, because anytime the umpire doesn't give her husband a call, we know we'll see it on Twitter, which is awesome.
She is a hoot. And I got to meet Willow, their daughter, at the All-Star game and instantly fell in love. She was just precious as could be. They're a sweet little family, and I would love to see them stay in Chicago, that's for sure.
Yeah, it would be nice. And like I said, I thought the same thing earlier today. I was thinking about it. And I said, if you're the Cubs, you might want to consider a guy like that. Left-hander,
Absolutely.
young, what he's doing, sign him to a nice contract, because they're going to have to sign somebody. Football is a sport which brings everybody together here. You got Sox fans, you got Cub fans, but football, Bears, brings everyone together. And it seems like everybody wants Justin Fields to start, except for Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace.
No, I think they want him to. They also are coming off of a failed experiment with a young quarterback. Now, granted, 2 different quarterbacks, but their jobs are hanging in the balance much differently than they did with Mitch Trubisky, especially I feel like for Nagy, because this is his guy. This is the one that he wanted. They got him for him. So now he's the one who's grooming him. It's very different than him coming in and being given Trubisky and having to work with that. And so I feel like the pressure is certainly on, and they would love to see him start, but I will tell you, Fred, that you can tell the difference between Andy Dalton and Justin Fields, and that to have a veteran in that huddle, to have a veteran running snaps at practice, even in shells, it's night and day different from anything I've seen in the last 4 years. It is decisive. There's no hesitation. There's no hiccup. There's no, why didn't that pass go well? I mean, he knows what he's doing, and it's so evident. And I think even Justin sees that he's not quite ready yet. He'll make he's got the tools. It's just there's reason to be patient. And his line from last week couldn't have been better when he said greatness doesn't happen overnight. And for him to understand the role he's in, and Andy to understand that role, it's just so starkly different than it was when we had Mike Glennon stunned by them drafting Mitch Trubisky, which stunned everybody else. And clearly they're still trying to clean up that mess. I feel like as much as everybody wants Justin Fields out there, we'll all see him in the right time. And I think it's going to be worth the wait.
It's so funny, too, how everybody is a football expert. We all know what the defense needs. We all know what they should do offensively. We all know who should play everywhere. That's the thing that makes football and sports as a whole a great thing. The left tackle position, they draft a guy who is a right tackle. He's going to play left tackle. He hasn't played yet. He hasn't practiced. He's got a bad back. And it's like there's so many different things. And every time you start talking about it on the radio, on TV, it's crazy because there's so many different ways. Who's going to step up for Kyle Fuller? What's going to happen at the linebacker position? Is Akeem Hicks going to be healthy? Are we going to find Khalil Mack? You can list 30 different things when you go to talk about this team.
It's so true. And, I'm interested this week as the Dolphins come to town to see what practice looks like, because when it's just the Bears against the Bears, it's easy to get these rose-colored glasses of, wow, this team could be really good. And then when you see them against another team, you realize that, no, they have a really long way to go. And that offensive line is a huge issue, Fred. I mean, 2 new quarterbacks. Andy Dalton is not mobile. He's not known for his mobility.
No.
So they need to solidify that offensive line, and to see Tevin Jenkins not even be out there yet, I feel like tomorrow he either needs to be out there tomorrow or they need to figure out what's going on there, because if it's just back tightness, well, guess what? Everybody's back is tight. You're a football player. Like you're going to have to tough through some of these things. And I was pleased that they had Elijah Wilkinson. They took him Wilkinson. I keep saying that wrong, but he took him off. Yeah, took him off of the COVID list today. So he'll be back out there. But now they're at they have 10, now 11, I guess 11 healthy offensive linemen, and none of them are true left tackles, right? Or they thought they would have at left tackle. And Nagy with this blanket statement of, I just really believe everything will work out. Well, yeah, but we want it to be good. Of course it'll work out, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a positive workout. We want it to be positive, and we don't know if that will happen that way. And there aren't a lot of great left tackles just sitting around in August, right? So they have some big question marks right there. And to see how the defense responds to this change with Sean Desai. Everybody's saying all the right things. They know they didn't perform great last year. So hopefully that swagger and that fire comes back a little bit more for them too. I mean, the Bears have a lot of questions. I mean, that's why I will tune into some of the preseason, but I'm with you. I like to watch everything until 5 minutes into the first quarter, and then I'm like, oh, right, it doesn't.
Exactly. Exactly. And then the other guys, I understand this, and from at ESPN 1000, Tom Waddle, those were the biggest games for him. I mean, if it wasn't for the preseason games, Waddle would have never got seen. But yeah, it's tough because you don't, the announcers start talking to other people, the starters that were on the bench. It's hard to follow. You don't know who the guys are. And it's crazy because of the number of guys that are on the roster. But I need to see Eddie Jackson step up this year.
Yes.
He was good when they drafted him. He came out and played great. The last couple of years, in my opinion, not so good. They need him to step up. They need to figure out who's going to be able. If it's going to be Desmond Trufant playing the other corner, then he's got to learn. He's got to do it well. I know they like Kendall Vildor, who was their draft pick from last year. See how he does. But so many questions. But it's nice to go into a season without a question at the kicker position.
Yeah, it is. It is. What a turn of events, right?
Yes.
And Cairo's fantastic. Like I love the whole story. It's just amazing to me how fixated we all were on that position. When
it was disgusting. It really was.
It was. We were obsessed with the kicker. And I think we learned rather quickly that Bears team was not one kicker away from making it to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So there were a lot more issues there that can just continue to unfold as they solidify that position finally.
Sure.
But it's a great story, great guy, and he fits in really, really well. And he's just so real and authentic and just transparent, more so than I think a lot of players are. He was just so honest with us this week about some of the things he dealt with, and you miss a kick and you instantly wonder if you're going to have a job the next day, right? So
sure.
and he went through that, and now they have solidified their kicker. Thank God. Hopefully they'll get towards the quarterback, because it's just a touch more important, just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. And we still don't know. I mean, Tariq Cohen's still not practicing.
Right.
He's on the PUP list and things like that. So I want them to give the ball to David Montgomery. I think last year when Matt Nagy finally did, we saw what Montgomery can do. I like what Mustafer did last year on the offensive line. So hopefully, those couple Notre Dame guys can work there and play well. The Bulls make moves in free agency, and all of a sudden we hear 2 days later that, or 2 days ago, that all of a sudden they could be tampering.
I know.
Isn't that just typical Bulls?
Well, at this, honestly, Fred, I'm like, okay, who isn't tampering, right? I mean, these
Exactly.
deals that come out at like, free agency starts at 6 p.m. and deals are announced at 6:02. I'm sorry, it didn't happen that quickly. Like, and so I don't think anything from what I've read and what I've heard, nothing will totally void these contracts. I did notice last night when I got home, like just before midnight, they sent out the press release about
Right.
Lonzo Ball. And I
Exactly.
was like, is this like equivalent to the Friday at 5 p.m. news dump? Like, are they just hoping nobody really notices because they're still under this investigation? It is interesting. I'm kind of bummed, but I also think that AK is smart enough to if there was anything going on there, that to not jeopardize the deal actually going through, right? So
Right.
I'm hopeful that that's what the NBA will find, and that they will be able to move forward, because gosh, I'm actually excited about the Bulls. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm really excited. We've waited a long time for this, and I think there's, with Zach LaVine, and he's doing his recruiting, guys are wanting to come here. There's been this overhaul. Like, I want to be there. I want to be at the UC when it's jumping for the Bulls. It's been too long since that's happened, and I'm excited. I want to see it all come together.
I'm like I said, I'm an older guy, so I'm one of the jaded guys. So I'm not an NBA fan. I will watch every Bulls game, but I did not watch any of the NBA finals. I don't
None.
care. If the Bulls aren't in them, I don't care.
It's
And
hard.
I don't
Well,
have to care
no,
because
you
people
don't.
always ask me on the radio, they say, well, don't you have to know? I said, no. I go,
No.
Jonathan Hood's on in the morning with Cap and Bleck and Abdallah are on later. They can talk NBA with them. I like talking Chicago sports. So if the Bulls are out, Blackhawks are out, I don't watch the rest of those. I got enough stuff to worry about watching the Sox and the Cubs and getting ready for the Bears and all the other stuff. But I'm eager to see the Bulls play again and play exciting basketball. Patrick Williams had a really good game apparently in the summer league game.
He
Yeah.
did. He looked really good, and he looked just that confidence you get when you're not a rookie, right? Like that,
Sure.
that confidence of knowing, hey, I've done it already, so this isn't new to me. I think that's huge, and I think Io has a lot of that too. And for him, the pride he has in wearing that jersey and playing at home, and the work he put in, I just have been very, very impressed with him, and getting to meet his parents a little bit and know where he came from. It's just, what a great story, and what potential that has to just really kind of be like a fairy tale for him and his whole family.
Well, as we started with you talking about having to go other places, here's Io, who's from here, goes to Illinois, and now gets drafted by the Bulls.
I know.
So,
I mean,
and for the
that's a
longest
dream.
time, back in the day, Jerry Krause didn't like drafting guys from here. Michael
Really?
Finley could have been here, wasn't, and anything else. But it's nice to see a Chicago guy stick around. I mean, we've always thought that. I'm a big high school basketball fan, so I would always want to see those guys stick around. And John Shire would go to Duke, and other people would leave elsewhere. It's nice to see someone that's from the area go to Illinois and then get drafted by the Bulls. And he's a fun player. He led the Big Ten in assists last year, which I didn't realize till someone told me over the weekend. That's amazing, and that'll really help this team.
It really will. And I think I was impressed during the NBA Combine and the way that he carried himself, the way he was always dressed up. He was ready to work. He impressed on and off the court, and I think that meant something to him. And now to be able to represent your hometown, like, it's just really cool. It just is. There's no other word for it.
Yeah. Dionne, I'm going to let you go. Fun as always. There's so many things to talk about. It's nice when everything's kind of exciting. We didn't bring up Fleury. We didn't bring up the Blackhawks.
I know.
There's a lot of other things going on.
There's a lot of other things going on, but it's going to be Blackhawks training camp before we know it. I mean, it's the middle of August already. I mean, Fred, it's just coming too quick, but exciting. And for what we missed last year, like, I couldn't eat it up more, right? I just keep it coming. It's so much fun.
I could see the big smile that when you posted on the picture with you and Chanowski at Wrigley Field the other day, and I could tell. And just like you were saying, being there, full house, the excitement there, that's why you get into the business, not to do stuff from the studio, from your home. You like to get out there where the crowd is.
Absolutely. That's what makes our city so special.
Yeah, it really does. I'm glad we got you here. I know you were from Ohio. Glad you're here. Stick around for a while. Thanks a lot for jumping on and joining me, okay? Have a good night.
Anytime, Fred. Thank you.
Thanks. Dionne Miller from ABC7, and she's been around since 2014 with ABC. And it's great to have her here. She was at Fox before that, and so many different places. Nice to see. She loves her sports, as you can tell. She's all excited and geeked up for the Bears. I think a lot of people cannot wait for the Bears to get underway. And games that count. I mean, we're talking right now about practices. We're talking about things like that. Cannot wait for. There is a preseason game on Saturday. I'm sure we'll all be watching, maybe for a little while, and just to see is Justin Fields going to come in. How's he going to be? How's he going to look running Matt Nagy's offense, which they're not going to show much of because they never do in the preseason games. So that was fun. We're going to talk a little beer as we always do. But before we get into the beer conversation, let's take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Darren, licensed real estate broker with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group in Homer Glen. Are you looking to buy or sell? Have you been disappointed in the past? The Jonathan Darren team with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group focuses on providing you with a concierge level of service during the process of buying or selling. We are a service-oriented team with a fresh and professional approach to selling real estate. Our goal is to combine knowledge, skills, and passion to exceed our clients' expectations, and most of all, we truly care. We are a knowledgeable real estate team focused on offering expertise and innovative solutions for our clients. The Jonathan Darren team has 5 full-service real estate brokers and a dedicated full-time marketer servicing all of Chicagoland. We will customize a detailed plan around your timeline for a sale, purchase, investment, estate, or other needs. Real estate transactions can be stressful, but don't need to be. Let us handle it for you. Visit our website, homesbyjdt.com, or call 708-308-1938 today. Expect better in real estate. Choose the Jonathan Darren team.
Jonathan Darren, one of the sponsors for the 1252 network, along with Nick and Ivy and many others. And if you'd be interested, just let us know. We'd be more than happy to bring you into our little group. The World's Best Fantasy Show had its second show on Sunday at 9 a.m. Catch that. Also, the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show on Wednesdays. Grobstein and Schuster Express on Sundays. David Schuster also does a collectibles show, which is a lot of fun with the guy from AU Sports. That's a great time. So 1252 Sports, you can find our shows. You may be watching me on Facebook. We can also be on Twitch, and you can also find us on YouTube under the 1252 sites. And usually the day after the podcast, the next day, you can hear all the audio on Spotify. And if you missed a show or you heard there was a guest on and you missed it, you can always go back and track down the Spotify show. Now, one of these next young ladies was with me before, and the other one I wanted to get on. So let's talk some beer. I know I'm drinking Pineapple Crush, but because I had to put the beer down for a day, just a day, as we bring in Vikki Reid and also Emily Slayton from Skeleton Key Brewing. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I've been wanting to get you on for a long time, Vikki. Emily, you and I and Paul were on a while back. We were all excited for everything that was coming up. And it was so weird that right before I came downstairs to do the show, the tornado sirens went off. And I said, this is too weird. Hopefully everybody in the Bartlett area is safe. How are you doing? It's been a long time. I know it's probably seemed like ages, but since Father's Day and since the tornado hit your facility, how are you doing?
I'm all right. It feels like ages, and it feels like it was just yesterday.
Okay.
So that's a really weird thing. It feels like time is simultaneously moving very fast and very, very slow. It's been a weird time. It's for how devastating the storm was and continues to be for us and for our neighbors in the community. It's also been incredibly inspiring just how much outpouring of generosity and kindness we've seen too. So it's been a real roller coaster.
Yeah. Vikki, you were in a situation, you weren't buckled out for a long time, and then all of a sudden everybody got excited. Vikki's going to Skeleton Key. This is awesome. This is so cool. They just built out this whole thing, and we were waiting to get seats in the new tap room and stuff like that. And then this happens. It's been quite a roller coaster, hasn't it?
It's been a crazy roller coaster. Like Emily said, it's been the fastest, longest 6 weeks of our lives. And we're just trying to move forward every day and try to make something positive out of it at the end of every day.
Yeah, I saw you guys a couple of weeks ago, about a week or so ago, picking up some beer, which I would love to be drinking. I love the Don't Blink And I love all that stuff. The migratory gave someone the migratory. They go, "Hey, you can taste the coconut." I said, "Yeah, that's the point. You like to taste the coconut." And I always tell them, I say, Vikki and Emily, they actually toast the coconut. I go, it's not like they pick it up somewhere. You guys actually do the work yourself. That makes it even interesting. And I know, Emily, you've done that. This coming up this year in October, I think, is 5 years, right, for the brewery?
Yeah. It'll be right at the end of September, 5 years.
Okay, yeah. And I know you've toasted the coconut forever, because this was one of the first beers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. We first launched it February after we opened. So we opened in 2016, and so February 2017 was the first time we debuted it at a Valentine's Day dinner. And it was one of those things where we just made a really small amount of it. It was 5 gallons, a sixtel. And, and at that point we toasted the coconut at home, and then people's faces lit up, and we had people from that dinner coming in every day after that being like, is there any left? And we thought, oh man, we've, all right, this is something, we've hit on something. And so the next batch, we made a full batch, and Paul, my husband, toasted the coconut again at home, and it took him 14 hours to toast all the coconut. So after that, we started partnering with local kitchens and stuff. And the last time Vikki and I toasted 50 pounds of coconut in about an hour and a half.
That's nice. That's impressive. Do your clothes taste smell like coconut when you leave, or no?
Everything, your hair, everything.
That's not bad. That's not the worst smell in the world.
No.
Vikki, I've seen you guys. I've seen you a couple times since the tornado, and I know Emily mentioned it too. The outpouring of love for Skeleton Key's just been amazing. I was just showing my girlfriend Linda one of your newest tats. So I was showing her that as you posted that, and there you go. Yeah. So I was showing her that, and it's amazing. It's amazing how the beer. I've always said that it's amazing how the beer community sticks together. But the outpouring from everybody, from the people that work at the breweries, the people that own the breweries, and all the people that support the breweries, how they've all gathered together and helped you guys at Skeleton Key.
Yeah, it's nonstop. Even today, we're still getting offers of different ways people can help us and move forward with what we need. And it is overwhelming. I got to tell you, it's been amazing. And I've always known the community has been really tight. Emily and I have both usually been on the other side of it, where we're pitching in and helping out. And it's just this very humbling experience to have so many people just want to give us whatever they can do to help out. So it's been pretty incredible.
And the beers that you guys I think it was yesterday, you were open for a couple hours and selling some more of the canned beer. Where did you make that stuff?
We made the coconut, the migratory at Buckle Down,
okay.
And we made the a trip through a citrus mountain, which was the hazy IPA. We made that at Workforce.
Okay.
So
you're all over the place. Is that so? Your brother's all over the place? Is he just flying all around, or is he getting help?
Oh no, we all are. We're all there to brew the beer. That beer. So those 2 batches, and then we're also we're canning up a batch that we brewed at Church Street on Friday, which is our Hellas Lager, Cold Fresh Joy. So we'll be selling that on Saturday out of the brewery from 1 to 4 p.m. But we've, those were all ingredients that we had on hand.
Okay.
We had planned to brew starting that Monday, the day after the tornado. Not knowing that was going to happen. We were on a tight production schedule for the next 3 months to really be cranking stuff out. So we already had all the ingredients, and they were, for once, we put them in the grain room where they're supposed to go. And that thing is built super strong. So it survived, and the ingredients survived, and everyone just said, you can come and we'll brew it here.
So when you said it survived, I was wondering, because I know that the roof got ripped off, the tap rooms were destroyed. What were you able to salvage other than the product that you had? So yeah,
we were able to salvage the packaged product. We still had beer in all 4 tanks. Right. So that's all dead. But we're hoping, we're going to find out tomorrow, actually. We're hoping the equipment's okay. We still don't have electricity at our unit. We have all they've restored so far is just the overhead lights in the brewery. And the brewery being in the middle of the building, like the production area I'm talking about, we're hoping, it looks fine. but you never know until you plug stuff in and start running things as to whether or not electrical got fried or if vacuums were pulled on anything. And if there's pipes that are insulated that are cracked that we can't see, and once stuff starts moving. So we're hopeful. We know the boiler's okay, which is excellent. So now that we know the boiler's okay, at least that's good. And once we are able to isolate the electrical tomorrow and test it all, hopefully we'll find that the equipment's okay.
That's awesome. Before I talk more about the plans, I got to ask Vikki a couple questions, because I tell everybody that there's about 3 people that helped me get into getting to know most of the beer people. I always said it was Justin Maynard, who used to run the Illinois Craft Brewers Guild. Chet Brett, he stands out wherever Chet Brett is, and Vikki. And how did you? I mean, this isn't what you're an educator. How did you get involved in the beer business?
That's a great question. I was looking for a summer job one summer, and that was the year that Beer House in Yorktown had opened up, and they basically ran an ad and put it out there. And I went in for open interviews, and I ended up being, I think I was the oldest person that applied. And when I told them that I taught high school, they're like, yeah, you can run this motley crew of people. You can handle this. And we did a little beer certification. We all, went through and did some testing and learned about the beer, and we opened up. And it was right at that time that we had the surge in craft beer in Chicago, and all the breweries were opening up in 2013. And it was the spring of 2013 for Chicago Craft Beer Week. Buckle Down was at Bug for the first time. And I just told them I would work for free. I'm like, I'm going to come volunteer. I'm going to pour your beer. This is what I want to do. And Sean and Ike were like, well, yeah, we'll take free labor. No kidding.
Sure.
So I went and worked the festival, and then I kind of just hung around. I was probably really annoying to them, where I was just like, you need a guest bartender, I'm here.
Right.
So by the end of that summer, they brought me on, and it was a great 6 years there. It ended at the pandemic, where we finished the school year. Everything had gotten shut down last year, and I thought, you know what, take a break, just sort of figure out what I want to do. Right. And then Emily and I were at the Guild golf outing last year, and we were driving around the golf cart shamelessly. I was plugging myself to every brewery that we stopped at, and we hit this one hole, and I was like, hey, anybody hiring? You need a beer person? And Emily was like, I'll hire you. And I was like, shut up. And then she texted the next day. She's like, were you serious? Can we talk about that?
Sure.
It made so much sense after, we sat down and talked about it, and it was seamless from day one.
Yeah.
And I think it's still seamless. We're still moving forward. We just sat today at Alter and worked through some things, and I'm Emily's soldier. I take direction well, and whatever she needs, I'm there for her. It's how it is.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And like I said, it was funny because one of the, I remember being at the Polar Beer Fest on the top of Rock Bottom downtown. Yep. And I got to meet Ryan Tucker from Goose Island at that time.
Tuck.
Yes. So he was, he listened to me on the radio. He knew me from that. So he started talking to me. I had the last sip of the Bourbon County they were pouring, and I went over to him and I said, this stuff's awesome. And he said, when the new stuff comes out, you got to come by. I'll load your truck up or your car up. I said, we're going to be friends forever. So we were, and I would come by, and then I got to go to a barrel age party, and then they had the dodgeball tournament up there in the barrel, by the barrel house and stuff like that. And they would just include me. They said, come on. And then you helped me get on lists, and Chet did. And then, they would just keep inviting me to these things. And on radio, and I know I've explained this, I think, to people earlier, but most radio is run by 2 beers, Miller and Bud. And it's difficult a lot of times to talk about other beers. But until they tell me I can't, I will keep doing it on the radio. So, I'm moving out to Lockport. My girlfriend and I are building a place. So I know the guy. I know Paul out at Nick and Ivy. And he gets so excited every time I mention, people are calling him. He mentioned Nick and Ivy again. And I said, well, that's what I do until someone tells me not to. And it's a wonderful thing. So that's why when people heard about what happened at Skeleton Key, Emily, people were asking me for the radio station. They said, what's going on? We know that those are people they're friends of yours, and this, and this. And it was great to hear, but it's been so interesting because even the salespeople said, we got something with a beer thing. Let's call Fred. He knows who these people are. And it's wonderful. But like I said, if it wasn't for Vikki and Justin and Chet, I would have just been a guy, been of one or two places and been lost. But Chet was a guy from a sports radio fan, and he kind of helped shepherd me around. And Vikki did the same over at Buckle Down. And I was at Buckle Down's opening and then their first year anniversary and second year. I did the same at Tillamook. I was there the day they opened. One time, John Barley was over at what was Brixie's then, just pouring some of their beers, and nobody else came there for that. They were just at Brixie's, and I was there. So I sat and talked to him for like an hour about their beers and things like that. And it's been fun. And, you know, my wife had told me in years past, she goes, the only thing you know is sports and beer. I said, well, so that when they wanted me to do a podcast, they said, well, it's got to be sports and beer because, again, that's all I really know. And so it's been fun. And I've been, you know, it's fun to talk to people. And then when I was at 2 weeks ago on the 25th, 26th, when they had the thing, Miskatonic for, you know, the SKB relief, I had 3 people that work at breweries ask, can we be on your show? Can you have us on? And I said, sure, that's fine. I'd love to get you on. I love getting people to talk about it. And if nothing else, promoting it on Facebook and everywhere else, because as you said, and as we've talked about, the community is so tight that everybody wants everybody to succeed. I mean, last week I had Charles on from Black Horizon. We had a great, he was worried out. He goes, I don't know much about sports. I go, you don't know what, you have to know sports. I'm not going to ask you about sports. I'm just going to ask you about beer. So it's fun. And I think the people that are watching, my brother even said, he was watching for the sports. He goes, hey, those beer people are cool. I'm learning stuff. He still doesn't drink craft beer, but he knows why I drink it now. And he said, it's cool. You got all these friends. I said, yeah. I go, there's nothing better than having friends in the beer industry. I said, you pop in, you're always going to know someone at all these places. And that's what I've been able to do. So that's why it's been very, very cool. Emily, what are the plans? I mean, I know with insurance and everything else, it's taken a while. It's going to take a while to figure it all out. But what do you guys have as plans for what you plan on doing? And is there any timetable, or is that still too early?
Oh, yeah, the timetable is really a big question, isn't it? I wish I had a timetable, because it would be so much easier to make plans and to feel secure about certain things.
Sure.
You know, at least at this point, we know that the building is being repaired, and it's, you know, it'll be habitable. So that's good. We don't have to move. Mm-hmm. So that's the big thing that for us was like knowing that we were going to get to stay in the same place, because Woodridge is really our home, and the village is so great to us, and we just love it there. And so we're glad that we get to stay. In the meantime, like insurance is a slog. I mean, it takes so long for that stuff to be processed. I mean, and there's a lot of material to go through. So, you know, right now what we're focused on is getting these beers that we made right after the tornado out. You know, we finished selling off the last of the hazy IPA. We have a couple cases of the migratory left, so we'll probably have those on Saturday along with the cold fresh joy. So selling that stuff and you know, just trying to stay relevant. And then we're working on a beer, like a collab tour. So we've had a number of breweries reach out and say, you know, come brew a beer with us, you know, come into our place and come into our house, and, you know, let's hang out and make a beer together. And so this Friday, we're actually going to be at Goose Island brewing with their R&D brewer, Quinn, which is pretty exciting and pretty fun. You know, Goose might be AB, but they are strong supporters of the craft beer community in Chicago and always have been. They support the guild in a big way, and they supported us in a big way. So we're excited for that. But that's what Vikki and I were sort of working on today, was figuring out like who, you know, reaching out to the people who said this, and, you know, don't want to put them on the spot, but, you know, just saying, hey, you want to do this? And we're going to put together some like band tour t-shirts, but it'll be like a brew tour with all the names of all breweries on the back and the dates we brewed. And so that's really the next thing. And ultimately we hope to get like a little kind of ad hoc tap room set up at the back of the brewery as soon as we can get it straightened up and electrical and stuff like that. But it won't be pretty, but it'll at least get us through, because they're saying that it probably won't be until March that we're fully functional again.
Yeah, actually that can be tough, and especially the winter months. I mean, because during COVID, it's not like if it could be worse, right? You had COVID that you had to deal with for the whole year, and I was out there numerous times. Me and John, I know, and a couple other people. We'd come out there. We'd be sitting there. We'd be cold and shivering, but still drinking the beer. It was fine as long as there was some sun in the parking lot. It was no big deal. And then this happens. I mean, it's like, you figure if you can survive these 2 years and bounce back and come back next year, it can't get any worse. There's a scene in the movie. I know. There's a scene in the movie The World According to Garp. I know it's an older movie, but there's a scene where Robin Williams and his wife are going to buy a house, and a plane hits the house, and he says, "We're buying it. What are the chances that would ever happen again?" And so something when you figure it can't get this any worse. I'm sure that was probably what you were thinking after COVID. And
it's also what I was thinking today when the tornado sirens went off. I got all these texts from people being like, "Be safe. I hope you're okay." And I was like, what could possibly happen? Like, now a tornado siren goes off, and I'm like, it can't be coming for me again.
I know. I know. It's so bizarre. Absolutely wild. One of the beers right before one of the last collaborations you had, I think, was with Goldfinger. You had the Hefeweizen, right?
Yeah, we did the Hefeweizen with Goldfinger. And then we did, I don't know if Charles talked about this, but we did this with them.
Okay, no, he didn't.
Oh, it's pretty cool. It's something we were working on that, was supposed to be brewed at our place, but we wound up brewing it over at Whiskey Hill instead. But it's a collaboration between us, Whiskey Hill, Black Horizon Brewing, and Englewood Brews. And it was specifically brewed it's a Belgian table beer. Okay. It's delicious. It's like low ABV and just has but so much character. But it's brewed for the Barrel and Flow Fest, which is a black brew fest out in Pittsburgh the weekend of, I think it's September 10th through 12th. Vicki's going to go out there and rep us because we wanted to, but we can't get out there. But it's all Black-owned breweries and the other breweries that they collaborate with, and we were really honored to be asked to join in on that. But very excited with how it turned out. Eric over at Whiskey Hill did a great job, sort of shepherding this through to completion. So, yeah. Yeah,
he did talk about the fest because I stopped at their place. You guys were there earlier in the day for the 4th anniversary of Black Horizon. Mm-hmm. I had worked and I got there. They were open till 11. I got there at 10:25 and I had their key lime pie IPA and they were all Kevin and they were all pretty hammered. I saw Charles. He goes, "What are you drinking?" I said, "The key lime pie IPA," and he goes, "Oh, that's right. We just put that on tap the last hour." And then he gave me some bourbon, which I don't know, from 18th Street, I think. And it's like, okay. And then I had another beer. They had a collaboration that they did. Something Local Artifacts it was called. And they did another collaboration there, and I had that. So I got the best of, and then I sat down and talked with the owner. So I said, "This is perfect. I'm here for 35 minutes, had 2 beers, and talked with you guys." It was a wonderful time. But he told me when they were talking about that, Kevin actually had mentioned to me how the Black Beer Fest in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I asked Charles about it a little bit last week. He didn't mention the beer. Is that beer going to be available that we can buy here then?
Man, I hope so. I know they said they're this first batch. So that was one of the things, was that when we were going to be brewing at our place, we have a 30-barrel fermenter. So we were going to brew a whole batch, and we were going to have extra because they had to do it at Whiskey Hill, where they have a slightly smaller system. I think they were only able to make on the first brew enough because I guess there's like a to-go package or something. Sure. So they just ship those all out via Tavour. And then I think Kevin told me that they're going to be brewing another 5-barrel batch. I think some of that is to bring to the festival, but I'm hoping that some stays here because, man, it's really good. Like, I was really impressed with how it turned out.
That's great. Before I let you guys go, you're going to be open Saturday? You said like 1 to 4, selling some beers.
1 to 4, yep.
You have any other plans over the next week or so before, and you can always let me know, and I'll always throw stuff out there and promote it if I'm not there myself.
Well, I mean, over this week, one of the other things we're doing, this is both a cool thing and it's going to make some people sad, but it shouldn't. But the 4th beer that we had planned right after the tornado that we had all the ingredients for was our Oktoberfest. And it's one of my favorite beers that we make. It's a traditional Marzen, and it's always very well loved. the thing is that before the tornado, we had connected with the folks over at Bengtson's Pumpkin Farm down in Homer Glen, and they had reached out to us about producing the Oktoberfest for them this year. And so originally we were going to do this first batch, and then we were going to do a double batch for the second one. But of course that's not happening. It's hard to get lager space at another facility.
Sure.
So we went ahead and brewed the batch, and we'll be delivering it to Bengtson's Pumpkin Farm on Wednesday. It'll be the only place that you can get our Oktoberfest beer this year. But it's a really cool place. Great for bringing kids, but it's huge. We had a blast there last year when we were picking up pumpkins and apple cider donuts. So it'll be the only place you can get it, but that's something we're doing on Wednesday. I think they open the first week of September, and they got rides and all sorts of cool stuff. So we'll be dropping that off on Wednesday. Then Friday we'll be canning up the Cold Fresh Joy and selling that at the brewery on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we're actually going on a family vacation that we've had planned for months. And so
Cool.
We're taking a little trip back to our childhood vacation spot up in Michigan.
That would be nice. You guys both have met my girlfriend Linda, and she because of Linda, I now have grandkids. So I will suggest going to Bankston so I can, and I won't tell them why until I get there. But it's a way for me to try the Oktoberfest also, so that'll be fun. I love you guys. Hope everything works out. Enjoy your vacation. Vikki, we will see you soon at one of the places out there somewhere along the way. Love having you guys on, and we'll talk to you real soon, okay?
Thanks so much, Fred.
Thank you so much.
Okay, see you later.
Take care.
There are not two better women out there in the business, in just as people. Vikki and Emily are such great people, and they've always been. I remember the very first time I went to Skeleton Key. I was having a wonderful time. My wife and I went there with a Groupon with another couple, Janet and Rick Ledley. And we just were over the top at the beers they had. And ever since then, been a big fan of Skeleton Key and what they've done. And we've all talked about it. We've talked about it here on the show, and I've even mentioned it on the radio on ESPN 1000, how the beer community is all pulled together after what happened to their brewery, and cannot wait for things to work out for them. Quickly, before we get too long, let's take a quick what's up my can. I think I've got a few things.
Well, maybe it's just because you're ugly.
Ugly? You gotta be kidding me.
Time for What's Up Fred's Can on 1252 Sports Chicago.
It's a very simple thing, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, and that is that it's NFL preseason games. And I'm trying to figure out, I understand NFL teams need to make money, or at least they say they need to make money. I don't know if you know this. I heard Carmen and Yurko talking about it last week. I have known it for 2 or 3 years. When the NFL signs their TV deals, the money that the NFL teams make from the TV deal more than pays the salary of all the players. More than pays. It covers all of the salary for the players. So everything they make on tickets and everything else is all gravy. It's all to improve their facilities. It's all to go into the pockets. You don't need to play 3 preseason games. And if you do, you should have different prices for them. Right now, the Bears have 2 at Soldier Field, 1 on the road. They've added an extra game this year instead of a 16-game schedule, which was real easy for me to figure out. Oh, they're 8-8. They're 500. Now there will be teams that'll be 8-9 and 9-8. And so it'll all be different this year. There's no reason to have 3. There's no reason to have any, I think. Now, I think maybe 2 preseason games is what they'll probably settle on eventually with collective bargaining and whatever that happens. But colleges don't have preseason games. And what the Bears are doing this week with a scrimmage with the Miami Dolphins, you can do that in lieu of preseason football games. The only positive I see in preseason football games is that people that can't get tickets for regular season games sometimes can get them for the preseason. They can take their young kids. They can take their families to the preseason games because they're not as well attended. Regular season ticket holders don't want to go. They'll give their tickets away. But I don't see a reason for them. And I would hope somewhere along the line, the NFL would change it and get rid of preseason games. Now, I know baseball has spring training and the NBA has preseason games, which, again, I don't know that that's necessary either. The NHL does too. And they have them so they can make money. And I guess that's business. But I would love to see the NFL cut down to 2 and eventually get rid of all preseason games. And hopefully that happens sometime soon. That's what's up my can, since this is the first week of preseason. People said, hey, did you watch the Hall of Fame football game? I said, no. Why would I watch the Hall of Fame football game? Unless I was a fan of the Steelers or the Cowboys. And then I would probably watch the first quarter. Tracy Butler, ABC7, watch the game. She's a Steelers fan. I understand that. But otherwise, why would I watch? I understand my guest from last week, Mike North, no doubt was probably watching, probably had some money on it. Different story. But otherwise, and also, you got to be a little crazy to bet preseason football. Just my opinion, okay? 2 things I want to make sure I mention. Nick and Ivy's first anniversary. Nick and Ivy Brewing in Lockport, coming up August 27th, 28th, 29th. I will be there. I know at least 2 of those days. There's an Oktoberfest celebration going on in the Naper settlement in Naperville, downtown Naperville, October 1st and 2nd. And also, there's an Oktoberfest at Chevron Field in Lockport, another one in my hometown to be. That Lock and Mule, the restaurant Lock and Mule, which is run by Tangled Roots Brewery, is running, and that is going to be September 24th, 25th, and 26th down in Lockport. So I was supposed to go to Oktoberfest 2 years ago. My wife was ill. I couldn't go. I was supposed to go last year. I told my wife, I said, listen, honey, I go, you're sick. Don't worry. Oktoberfest has been going on for 200 years. I'll be able to go next year. What happens? A worldwide pandemic, and there's no Oktoberfest. They've also canceled Oktoberfest for this year. There will be one next year. They've already got the dates, and I plan on going. It would be nice to get to an Oktoberfest. So if you get a chance, if you're a fan of Skeleton Key Brewing, 1 to 4 on Saturday, head on over there in Woodridge, just south of 75th Street on Lamont Road. Pick up some of the Skeleton Key beer and enjoy it. The Migratory is great. You will enjoy that, and also the Hellas that they're making, also a wonderful beer. Until next week, have a great time. The White Sox are doing quite well. Eloy with a couple more homers, I think, as they're winning 7-1 in the 3rd inning, or 7-0 in the 3rd inning. The White Sox are on a roll, and that makes me happy. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget the Fat Mike Sports Show on Wednesday, Grobstein and Schuster Express on Sunday, and also the World's Best Fantasy Show on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Get in the habit of watching and listening so that when the season starts, you know where to go for your fantasy information. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Andrew Tarbell for all of his help. And thanks to my guest, Dionne Miller from ABC7, Vikki Reid, the general manager of Skeleton Key Brewing, and also Emily Slayton. It was great to have them on. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful week. And don't worry, I'll be fine tomorrow with my cardio version and then a few beers. Enough of this pineapple crush on a Monday night for Hueb's Views and Brews. Thanks a lot. See you next week.